everybody, this is Macy
and Rachel, and you're listening to the Farmington Public Library podcast, where we keep you in the loop of all the library happenings
and up to date on all the books that should be on your to-read list. The following content does not reflect the views or opinions of the City of Farmington or its employees.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Farmington Public Library podcast, and we have a lot of book recommendations to cover today. We're going to talk about some graphic novel stuff and continue our vacation recommendations, but first we're going to take a minute to talk about our summer reading program that's coming up soon. Every year at the library, we do what's called the Summer Reading Program, and it is a chance for everybody to basically read books to win prizes and participate in some extra programming here. So the first thing that will be happening is on May 28th. We are starting our summer reading signups officially. So to participate, you'll need to sign up at the front desk. And this is for all ages, so adults, teens, kids, anybody can sign up to participate. And then starting on June 7th, we'll do packet pickups, which is an important step to starting your summer reading. You'll need to pick those up sometime, either June 7th or after, and it'll give you prompts on how to record what you've read or how many minutes you've read, depending on what age group you're in. And everybody's packets will look a little different. Sometimes the adults play more of a game style one, and the kids usually have like a bingo or minutes that they count. Same with teens, they usually have minutes that they count. Any kind of reading pretty much counts for summer reading, so whether you're somebody who likes to do audiobooks or ebooks or physical books or even graphic novels, those all count, and you can mark those on your summer reading sheets as participation. And when you bring back your packets during those designated days, we will give out prizes, which usually include a free book and some other fun things, sometimes coupons from local businesses or some little things that we include in those. We'll have extra programming during the month of July and usually a party at the end to celebrate the end of the summer reading program. But we will also have a kickoff that will be on June 7th, and we will provide more details in upcoming program schedules or on our social media page, so be on the lookout for those.
Okay, we're going to jump into our graphic novels talk today, and I'm really excited about this. Graphic novels, I haven't mentioned this before, I don't think, but I love graphic novels, and I read quite a few, I would say, that the library has. So we made a list of some of our favorites. Most of these will be standalone ones, so whether you're a avid reader of graphic novels or you haven't read one before, but you're interested in jumping into something, but you don't want to feel overwhelmed by a series, we picked mostly standalones for this segment. So what are some of your favorite graphic novels?
So I picked two, but before I get too far into it, I want to say I'm kind of a new reader of graphic novels. So I have read graphic novels before that were based off of already published books. We see that a lot with classics, there's graphic novel remakes, things like that. But just this year, I've made it a point to read graphic novels that were not based off of an already published book. And so two of my favorite that I've read, the first one is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. It is a YA graphic novel, and this one was actually recommended to me by a staff member because I had told her how I wanted to try to read graphic novels that were just graphic novels, and she recommended this one to me, and I devoured it. I absolutely loved it. What it's about, a prince and a dressmaker, like the title says. This girl, who's the dressmaker in the story, was about to get fired from her position as her current dressmaker, seamstress type position because she made a dress that her boss wasn't super happy with for a client. The client was happy, but the boss wasn't. Well, someone saw this dress that she had designed and made and was like, I have a client that I want you to work for. Well, lo and behold, this client that she begins to work for is the prince in the story, but it's unknown. Her working for him is unknown because this prince, in the evening time, he cross-dresses. The person who knows is, I think, it's his personal guard, and he is the one that approached the dressmaker about working for him, the dressmaker learns that it's the prince, and she's more than happy to fulfill this for him and to do this. And they end up developing a friendship, but it gets difficult because the prince's character in the evening time, if you will, when he goes out in the dresses that the dressmaker has made for him, becomes very popular in that scene, but no one knows who he is. But people have noticed the wonderful work that this dressmaker is doing, and they want to know who she is too. And so she gets invited to be a part of this famous fashion show, I think, or something like that, through a connection that has nothing to do with the prince. And the prince is like, but you can't, because if you go and show your work, they know that you work in my court, and they'll connect the dots, and I will get found out. And then I'll be shamed by my family, so on and so forth. They have to work through that. But anyway, it's a really cute book. The character's really cute, but it also has a good meaning to it as well. And it's about friendship and loyalty, and it's just really great, and it's really cute, and the illustrations are so good in it, which is one really neat thing about graphic novels, that in addition to the story and the meaning, there's also the illustrations that you get to look at, and so that's cool. And then my second one is actually newer. We got it this year. It's called Freshman Year by Sarah Ma, I think is how you say her last name. It is also a YA novel. I love this one a lot. So it's about the main character, her freshman year at college, the summer after her senior year of high school, and then the build up to her freshman year and all through that. What's really unique about this graphic novel is that the writer and illustrator, who is the same person, some graphic novels have a writer and then the illustrator is different.
That's true.
This one, she's both. But the graphic novel came from her journal that she had when she was a freshman in high school. So she just professionalized her journal from her freshman year of college.
That's pretty talented.
Yeah, so it's really cool, but what is also neat about it is that there's no definite ending to the graphic novel. I mean, it ends, but it's not like this closure of plot. Her freshman year is over, and she goes into the summer, and then she has her sophomore year. So there's a lot of things left unsaid, there's a lot of things left untied, which is how anyone's freshman year of college goes. And so that one, I really enjoyed reading it.
That sounds good. So for my picks, I had to note I had a really hard time picking because there's so many great ones. And before I get started on mine, I should have said this at the beginning, but I want to make sure everybody knows that the library has graphic novels in all of our age group sections. So whether you're looking in the children's section, the YA, or the adult, we have graphic novels in all those sections, and all of our graphic novels are labeled on the spine with a graphic novel sticker if you're unsure if it is a graphic novel while you're looking at the spines. The YA and the adult in particular have their own sections. So while our kids' graphic novels are just shelved with all of the regular novels and stuff, I just wanted to let everybody know that there are separate sections for the YA and adult, and they're fairly good size, and I think I would say diverse. So you got a lot of good stuff to choose from.
For sure. We also have nonfiction graphic novels, which is always neat.
Yeah. And for this alone, we didn't really pick any manga, which we also order and add to our collection, and they are filed with our graphic novels, our more comic book style books. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware in case you're unsure about that, but you can always ask us when you come into the building. I would definitely be happy to help people find graphic novels. So for my first pick, I picked Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks, which I think she might be the illustrator. This is like a one-off cute graphic novel about Deja and Josiah. They're called seasonal best friends is how they refer to themselves. So every autumn, all through their high school years, they work together at this pumpkin patch. And they finally have gotten to their last year working at the pumpkin patch together because they're finishing high school. You know, that transition of your last time of something before you jump into whatever your adult life is. So their last shift, they decide, Josiah's kind of melancholy and feeling down, and Deja decides to make she kind of has this whole plan to make their last shift together really fun. But that's it. It's just their last adventure together before they move on from the pumpkin patch.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I chose Adulthood is a Myth, which by Sarah Anderson, which she illustrates also. This is an adult. It's more like a comic style, I would say, and each page is kind of got its own joke and comic panels. So this is part of her Sarah Scribbles collection she's got, which is just a set of different books she's published with her comic book style jokes. And you don't have to read them in any order. Well, for me, they're about people who are bookworms, and there's just that awkwardness of wanting to go home and wear your pajamas or read your book. Just kind of fun, relatable, modern life jokes. Yeah, but she's got at least 4, I believe. I picked Spaceboy, which is in our YA section, and this is the only one I picked that was in a series. The first book starts off with Amy. She lives on a mining colony in really deep space with her family, and her dad loses his job, so they have to move back to Earth. So she has to kind of say goodbye to her best friend, and a lot of the first one is especially her thinking about how much she misses her friend and stuff and how far away they are from each other.
Can I just say that that's really wild? I mean, we talk about having to move when you're a kid, you move to a different city or different state, but imagine having to move to a different planet. That's just wild.
But I haven't even got to the other part of that yet, because on top of this moving to Earth, that requires her to be in a cryotube for 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
So her family is being transported to Earth while she's sleeping. And when she gets to Earth and she wakes up, not only is she has a whole new world, she misses her best friend, but her best friend is 30 years older.
Wow.
And she's not. So she's not just adjusting to all that other stuff about life. She's still the same age she was 30 years ago and has to go to high school in this new planet.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
It's a lot. So it's a lot about Amy dealing with her arrival and missing her friend and the things you wouldn't really think about, just adjusting to being on another planet, how different it is. There's a little bit at the end about this strange boy that she meets, which if you read on, because it's a series, ties into the title of being Space Boy. But anyways, I think it's really fun, and I don't read too much sci-fi, but I really like this series.
We wanted to take a moment and remind you that if you are interested in following along our summer book club discussion, our next episode will feature our first segment where we discuss part 1 and 2 of House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in her Crescent City series. If you have any questions, you can call us at 573-756-5779.
Okay, so for this segment, we are finishing up part 2 of the vacation prompts that we did last episode, and we're going to talk about books to read for either a city vacation, whether it be if you go to a big city you've been to before or exploring a new city, and then we're talking about good road trip books.
Yeah, so my picks are going to sound really out of place, but I was feeling like for these two specifically types of trips, I was picking more based on the kind of activities I was going to be doing and how much my attention span would be on a book, after a long day. For the road trip book, I picked A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Which is a YA book. It's a really popular YA book, so some people probably already know about it. But this is the first in a series, and it follows Pippa Fitz-Amobi. That's her name.
Oh, I love that.
There was this case 5 years ago in their town where this girl, Andy Bell, was murdered by her boyfriend, Sal Singh. And everybody knows he did it in the town. The police have already investigated it and all that. For her big project, final project of the year at school, she decides to investigate it on her own.
Oh, wow.
And as she continues her investigation, things start to kind of happen, and definitely somebody wants to keep whatever happened hidden, and she kind of gets more and more in danger the deeper she dives, and somebody is still out there. The real killer is still out there, basically, and so it's her investigating, kind of like a Nancy Drew situation, and digging into this case and unraveling the actual killer. So, and I know that's a weird choice for a road trip, but I was thinking something kind of like with the mystery and the intensity of like her investigation and stuff. I thought it would be kind of a nice road trip vibe for me. That's what I would like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Something that would really keep my interest when I was on a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about your road trip pick?
My road trip pick centers around a road trip in the story.
Which is what I should have done, but I didn't.
No. Before I say this, honestly, if I'm going on a road trip, I will most likely pick a book that features something like you're saying, because it keeps my attention a little bit. But I did want to think about if there was a book that featured a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
And the one I chose was Mrs. Nash's Ashes. And
okay.
Yeah, have you heard of it?
I definitely have, yeah.
So it is a romantic comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, surprise. The main character, her name is Millicent. She goes by Millie. And basically, she had an elderly best friend, Mrs. Nash. And Mrs. Nash passed away. And one of her last wishes for Millie, because Millie considered Mrs. Nash her elderly best friend, was for Millie was to take her ashes to her long-lost love. So even in death, she would be reunited with the love of her life. Millie lives in D.C., and Mrs. Nash's lost love is in Key West, Florida. It wasn't her intention to go on a road trip, but there was a mix-up with her flights, and so basically she has a certain time frame that she has to deal with, and her option is that she can road trip to Florida from D.C. Well, the plot twist is that someone that she knows through someone else, I believe, but does not get along with, his name is Hollis, she's able to get a ride with him, and they do this road trip together. And there's the dynamic of Millie believes in love, believes in happily ever afters. Hollis is very cynical and thinks that it's all stupid. But as the book goes on, and they have issues with their road trip, and wanting to turn back, to not turn back, but the whole reason they're road tripping is to bring Mrs. Nash's ashes to her lost love. Hollis is here for it. And he's like, yeah, no, we have to keep doing it, and starts to kind of believe in the purpose of the mission, if you will.
Yeah.
And so it's a cutesy read, but I think it's good for a road trip because it's literally about a road trip.
Yeah.
With a very unique dynamic,
It
though.
sounds like a good book.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have heard of it and am interested in reading that also.
And so then next we have city vacation. So what is your recommendation for a city vacation?
Okay, so again, when I was picking this, I kind of went with something. If I were in a city, I would probably be there to do a lot of museum stuff or different types of touristy things. So I wanted something that I would consider maybe after a long day that would be a lighter read. So I picked Well Met by Jen DeLuca.
Oh, I've heard of that.
And this follows Emily, who kind of relocates to this really small town where her sister lives. Her sister is recovering from an accident, and her niece is participating in the local Renaissance fair. And I think she needs an adult to sign up with her in order to participate.
I see.
So she volunteers to help her niece at the Renaissance fair. And her time at the Renaissance fair, she meets this school teacher who's he's grumpy and he's very matter of fact, and his whole family legacy has started from this Renaissance fair, and he doesn't appreciate how Emily's kind of lighthearted approach to everything she does. So they don't really get along, and they start the actual Renaissance fair after the setup and everything, and their characters have a lot of chemistry together, and every time they interact with each other. So there's this, is the attraction real for them, or is it them just playing a character? And it's definitely this grumpy sunshine dynamic that comes out, and it's enemies to lovers for sure. So if you like that kind of romance, I would say that would be a good one. And I wanted something that was kind of fun and light while I'm visiting a city. And that's kind of what I would pick.
I like that. That's cute. So my book is actually pretty similar to that. I chose In a New York Minute by Kate Spencer. And it kind of It's similar in the sense of it's the kind of enemies to lovers, but not really. But I picked this book, one, because it is a romantic comedy, but it's also kind of a love story to New York, too, a little bit, because it does take place in New York, and it is kind of a love story to the magic of New York, a little bit. But what it's about is that the main character, she has a terrible day. She gets laid off from her job. Kind of the typical start to any rom-com you watch.
I like how that's the start, always the worst, down on your luck situations.
Yeah. And she's on the subway, and somehow her dress gets caught in the subway, and it like rips her favorite dress that she wore. But there's this guy on the subway who, I forget how it happens. I don't know if he gives her his jacket or something, but like saves her from being exposed, if that makes sense. And thanks to the world of social media that we live in, her whole traumatic event and then him saving her was captured on cameras and things like that. But it takes off on social media as a super nice meet cute. And the social media world is like, oh, this is the cutest meet cute, this is the cutest couple, yada, yada, yada. Well, the guy and the girl do not like each other, and they don't get along. And the social media world is rooting for them to be together, and they're like, this is stupid, we have no desire to even talk to each other. Thanks for being nice to me, but no thank you. And so they go their separate ways, don't have any intention of meeting again. But they keep running into each other and meeting each other by happenstance, which is kind of where the love story to New York comes in a little bit. And so the book is just about them repeatedly meeting, just in real quick instances in a New York minute, and then eventually them, of course, catching feelings for each other.
Nice, that sounds good.
Yeah. And then also, as we were finishing up the vacation prompts, something that we wanted to talk about too was when we go on vacation, no matter what it may be, what our kind of go-to vacation read is. Now, I will say for myself that when I go on vacation, I normally will take a book with me that I haven't read yet, whether it be a book I purchased or a book from the library, one I've been meaning to read. But I do always, especially if I'm going on more of a relaxing vacation, in the sense of if I'm not going to a new city, if I'm just going somewhere to where I'm going to hang out by the pool all day or be at the beach. And I know I've talked about this book before, but I always take with me The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dessen. I only ever read it once every 2 years, and it's when I go on vacation. And so while I do take a new book with me that I haven't read, and honestly, I don't have a certain genre I prefer for vacation. I just take whatever I've been meaning to read. I always take The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dessen with me, which I won't go into explaining because I think I've talked about it like 3 times in the last 5 months. Do you have a go-to read that you take?
I don't have one in particular, since I think that stems from me being a mood reader. But I am also somebody who overly prepares reading material for vacations, if that makes sense. And it's partially because of the mood reading, but partially because I always want to have something. I always bring at least 1 or 2 like physical books, and then I'll probably spend time that I don't need to downloading audio and sometimes an ebook even. I have a good 6 books ready to go if I need them, and they're usually a little different. I definitely usually take a fantasy. I think throughout these vacation things that we've talked about the last couple episodes, I definitely like to mix it up depending on the style of a trip. And I should have mentioned also on the road trip one in particular, a good audiobook. Yeah. So if it has a good reader too, that's extra. But yeah, I don't have anything specific, but I will definitely take 6 books of different, like 3 different genres at least. Probably fantasy, like mystery, and maybe a lighter romance or something.
Right.
All right. I guess that kind of concludes this episode. So thanks for joining us for our talk about graphic novels and our vacation reads. And just as a reminder, don't forget to be on the lookout for our summer reading program information on our Facebook page or Instagram. And we'll see you next time.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the whole episode.
What we really should say is thank you for listening, but as much as we love having listeners, we would love it even more if we saw you at the library.
For questions, call us at 573-756-5779.